You're 16, standing in the driveway, holding the lead rope while a farrier bends under your horse. He pulls 4 hot shoes, nails on 4 new ones, and hands your mom a bill for about $150. 20 years later, a knife forged by hands trained the same way sells at auction for $231,250. Between those two numbers sits a $2.2 billion trade almost nobody counts. It runs on hammers, anvils, and about 27,500 people who bend steel to a living animal's foot. The tools are older than the country. The pay is not. This is every level of the forge in America and what it actually costs to climb. If you like breakdowns of how careers actually progress, like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Level 1. The Backyard Forge. You're 16, no license, no job, no money in it at all. You watch one episode of Forged in Fire and go looking for scrap. A railroad spike is free if you know which tracks are abandoned. You buy a propane forge for about $150, the whole budget. You bolt a length of rail to a stump and call it an anvil. Harbor Freight sells a real one, but the rail is free. You light the forge and feed the spike into the flame. You bring it to a yellow-orange, about 1500 degrees, and pull it out glowing. You clamp it in the vice grips and swing a 2-pound cross-peen hammer down the shank. The steel moves. You draw the point out and twist the handle in the vise, the way a bladesmith named Jason Krause does it at North Star Forge in Carver, Minnesota. Every heat buys you a few hammer blows before the color dies. Then, back in the fire. You quench it, and the first scale burns black off the blade. Now the part nobody tells you about. Most of a knife is grinding, not hammering. You take it to the angle grinder and chase a bevel for 45 minutes to 2 hours, because that is how long the first one takes a beginner. One maker in Blade magazine put it plainly, the grit gets into your skin and your clothes and never fully leaves. You stop checking the clock. Your first blade cracks in the quench. Your second one holds an edge and holds it clean. You made a knife out of fire and garbage steel, and it cuts. That railroad spike, twisted into a handle, goes on a shelf above the bench. Then level 2, where somebody finally pays you. Level 2. The Apprentice. You're 19, and a working farrier finally lets you carry his tools. The pay is $20 an hour to start. A farrier named Carla Hill posts exactly that rate at her shop in Soquel, California. You load the rig before dawn, rasp, hoof knife, nippers, clinch cutter, pull-offs, driving hammer, clinchers. Then you drive to a barn that smells like ammonia and wet hay. Your whole job at first is to hold the horse. That sounds easy. A horse is 1,000 pounds that can lean its entire weight onto the foot in your hands. You cradle the leg, pick out the sole, and pass tools in the order the farrier reaches for them, learning the sequence by watching more than by asking. He pulls the old shoe with the clinch cutter, nips the wall flat, rasps it level. You watch a keg shoe go into the forge and come out orange for the hot fit. The smell off the hoof the first time is burnt hair and keratin, and it stays in your nose all day. The farrier doesn't even look up. But here's the number that keeps you. Apprenticeship-trained farriers grossed $80,951 a year. The ones who skipped it grossed $77,371 per the American Farriers Journal's own income study. The unglamorous helper years pay out later. Mid-morning, a young gelding cocks a hind leg and kicks. You see it load and step clear before it lands. The farrier just says, "Good eye." You stop flinching every time a tail swishes. By the end of the first month, the horses stand quieter when you hold them. That is the whole skill at level 2. The animal trusts your hands before it trusts the steel. Then the farrier tells you the truth. To do this for real, you have to go to school. Level 3. Level 3. The school. Now you pay to learn what the apprentice learned for free. Kentucky Horseshoeing School charges $20,000 to $30,000 for a full program. Cornell runs a shorter course for about $8,000, taught by a certified farrier named Steve Krause. You do 385 hours at the forge alone. This is where the blacksmith and the farrier become the same person. On day 1, they hand you a bar of steel and a drawing of a foot. Your job is to forge a bar shoe that matches that exact pattern. Not close. Exact. You heat the bar stock in the coal forge until it glows. You draw it out on the anvil, then bend it around the horn into a curve. You punch the nail holes with a pritchel, driving them clean through the hot steel. You level it, check it against the pattern, and heat it again. It's wrong. The heel is too long on one side, and the pattern doesn't lie. Doug Butler, who has run a Farrier school for decades, says 6 weeks is the bare minimum for a serious student. And now you understand why. 6 anvils ring at once in a shop thick with coal smoke. You go back to the fire, then the test. The certification exam gives you a pattern foot and a clock. Forge the shoe correctly in the time limit, or fail. Your first heat cracks at the toe. You have 1 bar of steel left and the clock's still running. You slow down. You heat, draw, turn, punch, level. The sequence your hands already know. The proctor watches without a word. You quench it and set it on the pattern. It fits. The line holds all the way around. You pass. And most people in that room will not. A Virginia farrier named Lauren Nardi told Middleburg Life that only about 5% of apprentices are still shoeing after 5 years. Very few, she said, last more than 25. You are in the first rung of the American Farriers Association ladder, CF, then CTF, with CJF waiting at the top. You stop measuring the shoe with a ruler. Your eye does it now. When Cornell admitted its first all-women class of 3 in January 2018, they did the same 385 hours. The certificate is paper. The shoe on the pattern is the real diploma. Then Level 4, where the book of clients becomes yours. Level 4, the Farrier. You pass certification and the book becomes yours. The average full-time farrier grosses $119,770 a year before the truck, the fuel, the steel, and the insurance come out. You build a rig, a truck bed with a propane forge, an anvil, a hoof stand, and drawers of Kirkhart and St. Croix keg shoes, Delta Mustad nails. Every horse is on a 6 to 8 week clock, so a steady book compounds. You shoe 6 to 8 horses a day at about $150 each. 20 years ago, your mom paid that same bill. Now you write it. The work is a fixed sequence you run all day. Assess the gait, pull the old shoe, trim rasp level, shape the shoe hot, burn the seat, nail with city head nails, clinch, finish. One barn calls about a mare who's suddenly footsore. You spot heat in the hoof and a shift in the white line. Early found her before it crippled her. You call the vet, adjust the trim, and the mare walks sound in a week. The barn owner tells 3 neighbors. That is the whole business. The phone rings because the last job held. Here's the part. School doesn't teach. The farriers who fail don't fail at the forge. Danvers Child of the American Farriers Association put it flat. Most who wash out can't talk to their clients. Where you work decides your ceiling more than how well you shoe. In the Northeast, full-timers gross $142,291. In the West, $102,352. Same skill. A different living entirely. You stop chasing new clients. The old ones fill the calendar. In Britain, shoeing a horse without a license has been a crime since the Farriers Registration Act of 1975. In America, outside of racetracks, nobody licenses you at all. You are a one-person business with a hammer and a phone. Then Level 5, where you stop working alone. Level 5, the specialist. You stop being the cheapest option and become the one they call when the horse is already lame. The highest-earning farriers, the 30 to 39 bracket, gross $139,411. The American Farriers Journal Business Practices Survey tracks it every year. You do therapeutic work now. Navicular, laminitis, hooves, a keg shoe can't fix. A vet sends you radiographs of a foot before you ever touch it. You read the films, measure the rotation, and design a shoe to the pathology, not to a pattern. You forge a custom bar shoe or glue one on with Vetec when a nail would split a wall that's already failing. You set the shoe, hold the foot, and count the cure before you let it down. That kind of work runs $175 to $350 a foot, sometimes more. To do it, you finally sit for the top rung, CJF, Certified Journeyman Farrier. The American Farriers Association pass rate runs around 18%. You fail one section the first time. You go home, forge the same shoe again and again, and pass the retest cold. The clinic's vet shakes your hand. A good farrier saves a horse the vet was ready to put down. The clinic makes you their first call. You hire younger farriers and put your name on the truck doors. More of the trade works in group practices now, where the income runs higher. History is full of these names. George Tompkins shod man-o' war, and his apprentice Jackie Thompson went on to shoe Kentucky Derby winners. That is the ceiling of the trade. A name Barnes trust. You stop quoting prices. The work speaks and the Barnes pay it. Nothing left to prove. Then level 6, the other road off that first backyard forge. Level 6, the mastersmith. This is the other road off that first backyard forge. The one that doesn't shoe a single horse. Same hammer, same anvil, same scrap steel start. But instead of hooves, you make blades. You forge weld layered steel into pattern, Damascus, folding it under a power hammer until the grain looks like flowing water. You grind bevels on a belt grinder, etch the pattern in acid, and fit a handle of stabilized wood or bone. The rarest makers earn a single stamp. Master Smith, from the American Bladesmith Society, founded by William F. Moran, first awarded in 1981. Fewer than 200 people alive hold it. To even test, you forge a blade that can chop through a rope, cut free-hanging, and still take the bend without snapping. Your test blade holds. The society stamps your maker's mark into the steel. On the History Channel's Forged in Fire, the champion of each episode takes home $10,000. A student named Colton Arias won it twice. But the real number is quieter. Anthony Bourdain once paid a bladesmith named Bob Kramer $5,000 for a chef's knife on camera. Years later, at auction, that same knife sold for $231,250. One knife worth more than the best year any farrier ever posts. The steel came from a meteorite. The skill came from the same fire that heated your first railroad spike. You stop counting knives and start numbering them. This is the ceiling of the craft. Not a wage, a legend. Then the final beat, where both roads lead back to the same bench. Final beat. Picture the blacksmith you started with. The leather apron, the ringing anvil, the village smith. That man mostly doesn't exist as a living anymore. The money was never in the picture. It was under the horse. About 27,500 people shoe horses in America, running a trade worth $2.2 billion that almost nobody counts. The peak of it isn't a forge in a barn. It's a truck, a phone, and a book of clients who call every 6 weeks. It looks nothing like the poster on the wall. You are that truck now. The rig you loaded before dawn at 19 has your name stenciled on the doors, and younger farriers drive rigs of their own under it. One of them is 20 and holding a horse for the first time, learning that the animal trusts the hands before the steel. The bill he hands the barn owner is about $150, the same number your mom paid the day this started. He makes an hourly wage holding the rope. You make the phone ring. You have been on both sides of that bill now. Your back is not what it was, and a knee tells you the weather before the forecast does. You would do all of it again, because on the shelf by the shop door sits the first thing you ever made. A railroad spike, twisted into a handle, forged from free scrap and a borrowed idea at 16. It's in a glass case now, next to a certificate with 3 letters after your name. Same steel, same hands, different life. The forge is still warm when you lock up. The keys to the truck are on the hook by the door, and the name on the door is yours.